Leaving the garden of deathing the darks, the suffering farm of fiery archons Goyim. Old and new means to leave. Why does the misery and suffering of this realm seem to grow worse here every day, every year, every decade? Rapidly worse and worse, the more the majority obey the plan. Why is there more slavery now than ever in a financial form? And it just seems to keep growing worse, unquestioned. Year after year after year. Yet new ways to suffer and die keep arising. New diseases, like the somewhat new one I have had that many feel are incurable. New drugs, new ways, new technologies that can enslave us under the guise of automation and making everything easy. Yeah, it's true. We have all the informations and gadgets and automation we need to make it free so that no one has to be a slave, if that were the goal. But if the goal is to maintain a horribly low vibrational, bad human energy LOOSH farm to suck our energy dry, then that explains a lot. Because there's new ways and new means to keep us away from life instead, and mean in a realm we're increasingly enforced by new ways and means to keep us away from life and mean in a realm we're increasingly enforced by the false rulers. No good deed goes unpunished in hell, as the cliche says. In the old days, more people seemed nice. But were they kind, obedient Goyim, being nice because they were trauma bonded, Stockholm syndromed, terrified and coerced to be gentle and nice so they don't burn in hell forever? Doing good deeds to be recycled more in peace. Memory wiped and sent back to serve the cruel imposter gods? Or were they kind for the sake of the quality of their life while they were here, or their existence in this place? Were they socially wise enough to know that is a better way? Hell without end is a sin. That's the realest sin. If you follow the origin of that word from archery, meaning you missed the mark, to obey the Abrahamic gods and the government who pronounce they're going to free you is ironically the easiest and quickest way to keep hell from ever ending. To keep your soul or essence memory wiped and recycled forever. The truest missing of the point if you are really the ray of a divinity in a flesh suit, not just an NPC. In the deep south, where I'm from, in Brazil apparently, and rural Europe, and really nearly rural anywhere, many folks love these religions because they love these regions, rather, because they are slow moving. The pace of life. Not a contest to see who can be a better financial slave in an inverted hustle culture like around this region. Or they are more timeless. Attuned, even though they're human towns. Attuned to the true life in love and living. Yet, in the cage of the LOOSH farm, in the hell realm, or the repurposed place I call a psychological hell realm, the vampire gods never get enough. 'Cause like the horrific, bad human energy addicts they are, like an addict, there's never enough. As our OG in this field, Tony Sayers, pointed out, death has eat in the middle. The word eat right in the middle. And all who are born in these forms must eat. Other forms to be healthy, we need to consume cholesterol, at least eat other animals' placenta to have healthy brains. Only to be consumed by the comorbid archons endlessly, and if we're really aware, needlessly. We used to be killed by the imported animal forms before the LOOSH farm was set up, before the Anunnaki or whoever they were, whatever names you want to use, created this sick matrix extraction system and financial slavery system. You know, when we first got here, or when these beings first started doing their work of enslaving Gaia Sophia, the physical place. You know, they brung in the big lizards. I don't even know if the dinosaur story is true, but it might be. Lions, tigers, and bears. Oh my. You know, when we were, whether we were Neanderthals or the hybridized ET humanoid, the Namulu Christos original human race, man, these critters could easily eat us. So some people feel they feel that when we were in Lemuria, we had to live in caves to escape this, and also, of course, spiders, mosquitoes, and things like wasting disease, malnutrition, the kind of illness where you died from bacteriums that made all your food turn into a brown river of dookie. Famines, imported plagues like the Black Plague, which in William Bramley's book, he says that they saw UFOs laying down clouds of hell back then, like 800 years ago or whenever that was. But as we've said before, the dark side doesn't really have creativity, so it's the same as we see now, but in less of a geoengineered, less mechanically engineered forms of droughts, floods, and small wars. smaller wars. Now, we see the curators of the hell realm, second operating system, as I call it, have invented new ways of eating us or rendering us into puddles of LOOSH, extractable negative energy, with stress, the number one cause of cancer and probably death, through timey financial slavery, growing and growing financial chains that collectively we can't question for some reason. The old mind control of religious dogma has been amped up and multiplied with the scientism death cult, the new religion, and of course, the most popular religion of all, the religion of money and greed. Fear has been galvanized with the legacy mainstream media and the algorithms, the ancient means of mass attacks has grown into direct energy weapon controlled and assisted floods. That's right, floods that can be much more rapidly targeted to a certain area and done much faster than if they had to do it from some off-planet stronghold. Targeted city fires, using direct energy weapons along with geoengineering systems to burn, and having conveniently empty fire hydrants to burn down Los Angeles or Lahaina, for example. Targeted hurricanes, systematic orchestrated droughts, and intentional flooding of entire regions like the Deep South. The coast of the southeastern United States of America. With geoengineering, Operation Space Fence, and nanotechnology, our problems can be maximized for death production, for maximum tyranny, suffering, and loose extraction. Ain't it great? Ain't God good at his filthy tricks? Slow tortures of exasperating illnesses like the ones I've suffered, and disease through strategic misery induction with increasingly hidden types of warfare. The dark side is so well organized, man. They use whatever creativity and talent and high IQs they have to pool all their resources into these sick ways. Like the Council on Foreign Relations did a wonderful job of wrapping together the plan 6 years ago. Fear-based religions have grown and also become fear-based wars. Financial slavery that keeps getting worse. Survival beast mode. Positionality in a hierarchical structure of psychological hell. Imbecilic hubris and narcissistic personality disorder and other cluster B disorder epidemics. Separationism. The lockdowns has exemplified it. I remember looking on the ground often at stores, at the bus stop, and I saw 3 stop signs that said 6, 6, 6. 6 feet away from each other, 6. As if they were giving us the not so subtle message. Always stay 6 feet apart. They'd say, stay 6 feet away from the truth or from human togetherness. Don't kill grandma, kill yourself instead, it seems, was the subliminal message. In the old days, we'd have the entropy of old age. Maybe it wasn't even much of a thing before that, before these fake gods get here, when the stargates weren't covered over. We could choose to stay in a flesh suit as long as we want and then leave, and we might live to be 2, 3, 4, 5, 600 years old. But there's a thing in the Bible after the Tower of Babel, when they tried to, after they actually tried to build a tower to reach to heaven, and they tore it down because they didn't want us to know what's up there. And they said, the fake gods, they said, now we will confound their tongue so we can't understand what people in other languages are saying, and we will shorten the length of their lives, because it wasn't enough to add this evil DNA. Give them our minds and make them in our image. And that was one of the ways that the gods felt like they made a mistake, because we got a little bit more intellectual and mathematical capability too, so they had to shorten our lives. So we could never live long enough to really tell what was going on before we died and our essence went to the white light and had its memories erased and became forced to recycle. But since these ETs got here, we had the entropy of old age slowing down, getting wrinkled and ugly faster and faster, ineffective and incapacity, and a growing incapacity to look forward to, but we were in communities. The old were often wise. They might not have had to do physical work, but more psychological, shamanic, or community engagement, more social altruism through coaching and consulting. They'd share knowledge and wisdom. Now, most of all folks of all ages are dumbed down. Slaves. Financial slaves who only know about how to operate the machinery or do their 9-to-5 day jobs or their careers. It's really obvious when you are in those moments that hurries often create massive looshing opportunities. I've noticed the Archon tries to and successfully hide small objects when I'm in a rush, and extract some loosh when if I'm but go into a state of unawareness or stress looking for something, and they hide it under my nose where I wouldn't look and extract my energy for 5 minutes. Unless I keep my living quarters in perfect military cleanliness and order where they can't do that. Those who share a lot of wisdom these days are hunted, assassinated if they're well known, or blackballed, lose the contract, lose their record contract like Kanye did, belittled, tried to be forced into the crazy house or told they're crazy, or hidden like I was for so long, and still to some degree if they're lucky. It is very important to the false self gods, the false creators who are masters of psychological and physical imprisonment, to keep us as dumb as possible. And that is why we're encouraged to fry ourselves with these Wi-Fi gadgets all day, and why they use blue lights on cell phones and computer screens as opposed to other colored lights. I learned from the brilliant research of Dr. Jack Kruse, KRUSC, that was intentional because it's more dopamine hitting, addicting, and cancerous, and they get more business for that. And we've seen since the forcing of these microwave gadgets called cellular phones, average IQs have dropped down over 30 points since cell phones were given and forced. I'll say it again. I feel it myself, just having been using a cell phone and being addicted to it, and for a couple of years since I went 20 years without it. I've learned and taught a lot, I'll admit, while it still would drain my energy. If I look into that screen too much. And it's the exact opposite of the divine radiation of the sun, which gives me healing, vitamin D, energy, other nutrients, and spiritual downloads and ideas, self-confidence, a whole array of powerfully good cleansing, healing, and vitamin and mineral nutrients. But yeah, I've learned and taught a lot on my microwave cell phone while it still would drain my energy, and on a good spray day, do a good job of lowering my vibration. Yeah, if I was, which I probably was, on the microwave phone all day on a spray day, just starting to feel like shit and depressed. No matter how great the video I watched or made or chatted with or commented on was, the overall energy of those days was filth, because that's what geoengineering and blocking the sun does. It takes away the natural communion, the need that the flesh suits animals and plants and trees have for communion. You see, to the controllers of hell, we are just loose objects. That's why the blue bloods, the 1% robber barons, the Illuminati, the secret society cult members highest on the pyramid are promoted. The scum rise to the top. The more heartless they are, the more they are willing to use and abuse us, to the point of the child sex things, tortures, and adrenochrome extraction, black magic rituals, all that. The more, like, in the extremely pathetic cremation of care ritual in Bohemian Grove, which Arkeem Rob uploaded to his YouTube channel live. I watched it before they deleted it, and it was the most pathetic, stupid, spiritually and emotionally, socially moronic ritual I've probably ever seen, where an English sing-song voice said to all the brothers there, "Imagine a few years ago when you actually cared, how horrific it was to care." No, it's horrifically pathetic to not care. We are just low-grade energy objects, or food for their repulsive all-we-can-death buffet. The medical mafia finances and the health-gutting, big boy, billion-dollar, big C industry. What's it really about? So, what can you do about this facet to it? Of course, you can learn nutrition. And preventative care instead, which is why sunbathing is number one. The escalating needle tech plans, the totalitarian takeover called Agenda 2030, are all designed to get rid of sovereignty, to force us all to be digitalized, human cyborg, goyim, cattle, slaves, or loose objects with no free will at all. Only. They're designed to destroy the actual life, the memory and remnants of the original operating system where in our original form we had free will, to erase our memories of divinity entirely and to get rid of all the creativity of our essences while we're here. They hope. Permanently. This is how much of a horrific takeover plan it actually is. You know, in the U.S., it's illegal for two individuals to fight to the death, but legal for governments, militaries, and established religions to send thousands to kill each other. How have we improved since the Revolutionary War, where they stood up in a line and shot each other from a distance? It's a little bit less collectively suicidal and masochistic than it was then, but not a whole lot. It's really quite similar. We know when it comes to love, respect, decency, and spiritual awareness, the emperors have no brains or heart. Yet as long as the vast majority obey the archons, as long as the vast majority don't question their thoughts, the garden of deathing grows rapidly escalating suffering and harvesting our loosh like the masters of hell they have become. Why are we here? For real? For the actuality? What happened? Well, I've got about 666 videos explaining ideas and extremely well or somewhat well researched probabilities of obvious facets of it. I don't really think anyone knows the true whole picture, but in the age of the digital revolution of Aquarius, where they gave us these gadgets, we have hundreds of researchers, thousands of cases of near-death experiences to draw upon. So, according to the Gnostic terminology, archons and ensouled humans, you know what they are? They are mutually exclusive, energetically and at the essence level. Okay? It's really obvious, and we're going to have to do something about it, individually and collectively, to get out of this horrific problem. But the dark side, the archons, the matrix controllers, have been doing lots of work to make it worse. They've been creating new ways of death, new ways of more horrific suffering for us to be extracted through. I mean, theoretically, fentanyl seemed to be such a great way to self-exit painlessly. But what if it didn't actually kill you and you got addicted? But it's now a new way to torture us far worse. I mean, look at Kensington. Look at any big city. Look how much even worse that is to a person's posture than meth. You thought meth made people hunched over like they were 110? Well, fentanyl makes it so that their nose is about to touch their knee all day long, it looks like. You know, many awesome musicians, many of my musical heroes died of drug addiction in the old days, alcohol, heroin. But recently, like within the last decade, two of my favorite rock stars, Tom Petty and Prince, who were both into pharmaceutical pills, and they were seeking to get their crappy pharmaceutical pills from someone they didn't know real well, and they were killed by fentanyl. Not just gnarly people on the streets and high schoolers, but some of the greatest pop and rock musicians of our generation. Peter Santinello said on one of his videos, you can get a fentanyl pill for $2 on the streets. Less than the cost of a 40-ounce malt liquor. It's because it became the most popular street drug recently in the last decade, and that makes sense from the LOOSH FARM perspective. It makes people more hunched over than meth, and instead of twitching, it makes them comatose, instead of twitchy or violent. Look at Kensington. Why did humanity have these? Why were methamphetamine, crystal meth, and fentanyl even created? Why do they even exist? Well, they're perfect for the goal of a hell realm LOOSH farm. It really looks like that's why they're here. Why do most, like 99.9999% of white coat medical authorities only give you legal things often made of petroleum with horrible bad side effects? Why is geoengineering still here? Every tradition and popular movement seems to be full of suffering for a key reason. Oh, the trouble Bob Monroe caused the dark side when he remote viewed LOOSH. That's how the archons, my background music cell phone said I got to turn off. I'm too hot. That's how the archons have designed and repurposed this beautiful realm. And these incredible divine essences and these amazing self-healing flesh suits that can mend their own bones and the skin can repair itself. These amazing semi-divine flesh suits that have to eat animal products and other plants to exist, but yet self-healing fleshy machines. Because they didn't want us to even know about a key factor in the beginning of this channel when this flesh suit repaired its broken bones. Now, I was in the ER for 5 days, and I did have the modern gadgets to help the process along. But just drinking chicken bones and laying out in the sun here, taking CBD and cannabis, gave the flesh suit the ability to heal its, the space to do the self-healing it can do. So it's another reason, there's many reasons why, this probably won't see too many eyes unless the behemoth corporation and fledgling video platforms I'm working with get their head out of their ass or decide to love me enough to work with me here. Is it even possible to save this place? To save yourself, your essence, or escape the memory wipe, forced reincarnation, suffering pit of the Goyim LOOSH Farm? Yes, but it takes and will take a tremendous amount of psychological and physical work. One possible way to leave the gore den of dying is to do work so good you are still serving awakening after you leave your flesh suit, like a really beautiful, liberating song. Teaching a book or an idea that can help liberate others after you're gone, can help your essence, I'm pretty sure about this, to have the courage and to have the strength to not be compelled to come back here, to attain timelessness and deathlessness after this incarnation. If you're really, really good. Look in the mirror. What are you doing to contribute to suffering? What do you do for human liberation? Are you doing things to serve the great awakening out of Satan's bunghole and into creative, peaceful, spiritual reality after the LOOSH Farm is shut down? We have to eventually give up on hell and its vast system of rewards and embrace the helper's high, if we get high at all, really, of collective awakening for real. Not to support archonic controls or profits or, pat ourselves on the back as a self-appointed narcissist hero, but for the right reasons. Because individually and collectively, if we can't give up on hell, if it's too seductive, if the Gordon of deathing darkly delights, deathing darkly de-darks, the personality of the deceivers pulls us in once again, that might be that we're stuck for thousands more years here in a worsening and worsening suffering pit. So, instead of that, learn the truth. And ideally, just stop obeying liars. Intimately discern the feeling of being loosed. The next time you get loosed, notice how it feels. And think to yourself, what can I do to avoid this? Whether it's taking a deep breath, thinking more deeply, understanding the mental infection, the mental wounds, your complex post-traumatic stress disorder that archon is scraping, or when you're late for work, that wound it's scraping, and decide not to feed them. I know it's hard. It's hard for me. deny them their food and starve the parasites, as my friend Joshua S. John says in his channel description. We must see and accept the false gods really did a great job on the construction of the LOOSH farm. And yet still, knowing they're moral cowards and retards and they have no love or heart at all, in reality, might make it a little bit more smooth and easy to pull out of the devil's bunghole with your mind. And yet still, even though they did such a great job at forcing us all into a psychological pit, still transform and transcend it internally and collectively. Somehow, notice the evil alien or interdimensional predator parasite powerhouse gods of filth in your thoughts or in the matrix. The dark side, the 1% robber barons stole all of their power. Yeah, because we, particularly what Gnostics call the pneumatic souls, have naively or cowardly and fearfully given it to them. And that notice that the evil ones stole all their power quite masterfully and take it back because they don't deserve it. It's not really theirs. But unless you see what's going on in the fourth and the fifth dimension with your higher self, with your eyes that see above the pleroma, that can see past the reincarnation memory wipe, that can see up and above the filthiness of your flesh survival in this realm, the grotesque beast mode, survival beast mode that all 1% must be in. You know, if we have to notice how good they are at this and take it back even more masterfully. We all must relearn and act in sovereignty as much as possible and ASAP. Share awareness. Share freed dome. Freed do me. Live and teach above and beyond fear-based religions. The memory-wiped veil of forgetfulness. Fearlessly let go of laziness as soon as you can. Figure out how to live at least mostly off the clock. Leave expensive regions like I'm going to have to leave here for this reason. And habits, expensive habits. And the cliche saying, live simply so others can simply live. A lot of people feel like if there were no 1%, then there'd be plenty of abundance for us all. And that this is a war like the meme, 17 years ago. We are the 99%, the oneness versus the 99%. Well, it's definitely a huge facet in this. Notice and point out the pretty death traps as well. Like having too much good things, or getting into daily ganja addiction, where you always have to be in the delusional state of la-di-da, it's all good because I'm really high, everything seems to be all good. When you your nervous system becomes brainwashed and convinced that this is the best choice. To always take lots of ganja so you never see anything wrong. Remember moments of real bliss, truth, and awareness. Stop constantly feeding the archons in their growing GORE den of deathing. Instead, grow awareness. Give up suicide. And know that in doing your best to be harmless and peaceful, respectful, discerning, that the reward will be that you will have a greater chance of never coming back to hell than you ever would. Probably have zero chance if you overtly kill yourself. Give up our displacement of responsibility as much as we can. Remember where the true God or a ray of it is within. And learn the difference between her respectful, soft voice and the filthy interjects of the false creators, the archons, with their stream of derogatory, filthy commands that are beaming into almost everyone's head. And if you want to take further steps, get ready by learning lucid dreaming, remote viewing, or astral projection, and become as sovereign as you possibly can. Use the Boy Scout motto around spirit. So always be as prepared as you can, psychologically and spiritually, at every moment. Because you know not when the imposter God is going to come for you. I recognize all of this is a very tall order for me, for you, for everyone. Probably. But in getting out of here, it's the opposite of what that robot from the future was plastering all over my comment section. We have to create our choices. Because unless we want to go through enormous suffering, because we know that the matrix choices provided in the multiple choice questions they give us throughout life all have loose extractions added to them. It's very difficult. I mean, for me, it's like I could hitchhike, and that requires a lot of faith, or be punished by the systems of transportation as they exist. And yeah, they seem to have done a brilliant job of keeping me from flying with digital ID requirements. And since I don't have a passport, I recognize this is all a lot and a whole lot of work. But in getting out of here, of course, we must try to stay calm. Let go of misery and loose-inducing situations. Give up on sadomasochism or narcissistic co-fantasy trauma bond abused personal situationships. For me, I must let go of my old home here in the forest and the insidious archon-induced or, exaggerated indecision in a haunted Libra town, and my personal archonic devastation, if I allow it to become that, procrastination. Never forget self-respect. Choose creativity. Choose a creative solution whenever you can. Choose harmlessness whenever possible. Choose discipline. It's a must. Align with freedom. Do the inner work. Do your shadow work. Kiss hell goodbye. Exclude the archons looshing with stronger and stronger awareness. We can become more harmless junior gods ourselves in this way and rescue our own essences. Leave the GORE den of deathing. Learn to live freer.